Oh, did you?
Yeah, I'm excited to see it.
Yay. So I'm going to roll these up, and I'm just going to place them at the different tables. So we have blue, okay. But I'm going to actually don't unroll until I get to that point. And purple, purple working all by himself. Okay. We might, thank you. Will you take the,
Yes.
great. And green. And are you guys, no, we
They have one.
orange, and I've got orange.
And we get extra just in case somebody's
Just in
waiting,
case.
so they can go to that table.
Okay. So we'll put the orange and the red. Those tables. Okay. Did you start it over? Oh. I know.
And I pick the red.
Thank you. Those pesky after-school activities, right?
Yeah, really.
Okay, well, what we're going to look at now is a type of formative assessment and a way that you can get feedback, timely feedback, and give timely feedback to your students. And it's using the strategy called the graffiti wall. One of the things that you want to do with this one is in the process of why you would do it, for all of the reasons that we talked about with formative assessments, but we also want to make sure that whatever we're doing, we're still looking at our teaching opportunities, and those teaching opportunities match up with those 21st century skills that we want our students to have. Looking at getting our students to be problem solvers and creative thinkers and to communicate, and also to collaborate. And so the graffiti wall is an excellent strategy that will go ahead and blend those things together and give you an opportunity to see all those things and how your students are progressing with those kinds of skills in the classroom. At the end of a unit, when you have, or sometimes at the beginning of the unit, anytime you would use a formative assessment process to find out where your students are, you could use this strategy. And the way you would do that is you come up with a set of questions that are based off of your standards and that you want to get an idea of where my students are with this. The model that we're going to be using shows that you can use different kinds of questions. So just like on your formative assessments or on your summative assessment, you might have multiple choice, you might have true false, you might have fill in the blank, you might have a label and sketch or create a diagram of something, or you might have a short essay type question. And so you would want to model that with this process too, because what we want them to do when you give an assessment or a formative assessment is you want them to be practicing, right? So they're familiar already with what the strategy looks like, in that we're not surprising them, right, or pulling any punches right towards the very end. So at your tables, what we have is we have color-coded questions that I, as a teacher, have already written. In my classroom, it might look a little bit more like this, okay? And then I have a color associated with this one. So this is from a physical science unit, and it just says, draw a free body diagram of an airplane at constant altitude with constant velocity that has four forces acting on it: thrust, drag, weight, and lift. So now, what I want to know, okay, is, do they, number one, know what a free body diagram is? Okay. And then number two, do they know what some of these key vocabulary things that I've been teaching through the unit, can they properly label where's going to be the thrust and where's going to be the lift and where's going to be drag on this one? And I get an idea from their responses on that. What I'm going to be having you do is we're going to model this same exact process. These students are in their group going to start read the question together. And so they read it out loud together, so they practice that oral fluency, okay? And then they start discussing, how are we going to answer this question? Okay. We give them one colored marker, the colored marker for their team. Okay. And when I give them a certain amount of time, like depending on the question, this one's going to take a little more than 2 minutes, okay, unless the kid is really good, okay. But, and sometimes if it's done, and I have these up around on the walls in my classroom, and so I'm watching as the students engage with this question, who's taking the lead, who's stepping back, who's not participating at all, okay, who's submitting some ideas. And as I'm doing this, I'm formulating who do I need to pull for a small group before I give the summative assessment, okay. So I'm making a judgment call and based on what I'm observing with my students as they interact in their groups. So now as they negotiate for meaning, okay, and practicing oracy as they're discussing how they're going to solve this problem, and their creative thinking and problem solving and all of those different kinds of things, okay, then they write their response up. I have them draw a little squiggly line, okay, and then they write a new question. Now that question should look very similar. If I happen to have a multiple choice question, I would like them to write their next question as a multiple choice. If it's an essay question, I would like them to go ahead and write an essay question. And so now they're ready to go. They've written a new question. It's not the same question. I ask the students to rotate, okay? So you're going to move clockwise to the next group, okay? Now, first thing you're going to do, you guys are going to read the initial question. Then you're going to look at their answer. If you agree with their answer, you put a check. If you think their answer needs some adjustment with your color, okay, you're going to write the additional information or the adjustment of information that they need. Now you're going to go through and you're going to process what question did they ask you as your group, discuss it, process it, write your answer, squiggly line, and write a new question that's based on the same format. Now, as a teacher, as I'm getting ready for my summative assessment, I'll take these with me to my PLC with my teachers and say, what questions can we include on our summative assessment? And so the kids will go, that's my question, you know, yeah. And it's great, you know, but then they'll say, but I don't remember what the answer is. Okay. But they begin to understand, and once you've gone through this process a couple of times, they start picking up that a lot of times with my questions, they're questions from an old previous assessment, okay, so it's practice, right, but what they're going to see is going to look very familiar in a very familiar format with this. So today what I would like you to do is to go ahead and model this process with your team. Remember, you're going to read the question out loud. You're going to use your color to go ahead and respond. You use your color even when you move to a new question, okay, and you're going to write your answer, draw a squiggly line, write a new question using the same format that you see the question is there. Are there any questions that you have about the process? Okay, so we're going to give you